All right, good morning. Hope you guys are doing well. Let's go ahead and get right into this. Okay, so here's the thing. You have the opportunity to work with either speed wide or triple X. I choose to work with speed, and if I'm working with regular monomer, that is great. You're going, depending on your skill, might want to speed it up. So if I'm pouring liquid inside my dish, I'm going to want to hold it up to here, right, just to get it into the dish without spilling down the side of my bottle. Okay, so the brush I'm going to be working with when I'm doing this is not going to be that size brush. It is going to be, out of the art brushes, I'm going to be using a number 8. You could also choose to use, right, which is going to give me that really fine point, as you can see. That right there is what we're going to want to work with. Okay, so once we have the liquid inside the dish, one of the things I'll do in order, right, one of the things I'm going to do to speed things up, I'm going to show you something crazy. Now, this is only for doing 3D. I'm just going to add maybe a few, again, whatever inside the stem of acetone, just a little bit of acetone to the monomer. And what that's going to do is going to help the monomer evaporate a little bit faster. Okay, so when you're working with your beads, let me just go ahead and get that out. You're going to notice this. So check this out, right? What we have to practice when we're doing flowers is basically bead control. So if I submerge my brush and I spin my brush, you're going to notice that I'm going to be able to pick something up that is, again, that small, right? And you're going to notice that when I set it to the surface, it doesn't move, okay? So if I was to take, again, my brush and try to do it, like if you're looking at my dish and I'm trying to spin it, right, I'm only going to be able to get so much off. If I was to take my brush and then use the towel, then just barely touch the surface, I'm going to be able to pick up again. And you're going to notice that I can continue picking up. I'm not going back inside the liquid. I have enough, basically, liquid to maybe do this a few times. Okay, so you'll notice that this one has kind of run out, which is exactly what you want to be able to do. Picking up beads, and again, you'll notice, like I could sit here, I could dip my brush, I could spin this maybe a couple times. Practicing getting stuff that is literally that small, as you can see, is really important. All the way to be able to get something where you know that when you set that down, it's going to, again, start to self-level. You can start to see it self-level out, getting the right size beads, right? Again, where as you set this down, depending on how much liquid you have, you're going to be able to get something that is going to move in a direction, right? You don't want it to sit there like concrete. You want it to be able to move out. But practicing control of your beads is really important, because when you're actually moving your flowers, you have to be able to get them, again, spread out. So I'm just going to go ahead and wipe that off. Okay, so next stage is, again, once you're able to submerge your brush, and then what I like to do with a lot of the students that I work with is once you set that down and it starts to self-level, we're going to spin. You're going to take your brush and you're going to spin this out. You're going to know this is the number 8 brush that came inside, right? So for those of you guys that got this, this was the collection that you guys were able to build out. I'm just using the number 8 brush in here. So you're going to notice with this brush that I'm actually able, right? You'll see that from the inside of the brush, what I'm actually able to do is I'm actually able to open it up from the inside. See that? So from the inside of the bead, I'm actually able to spread this as flat as I possibly can, right? So it creates basically negative space in between. You can see that it puts a tight shelf around the whole entire basically leaf, right? So again, something very basic where all I'm doing is spreading that wide open. That's one option, right? Another, again, is if you were to take your brush, you can immediately set the bead down, and then while it was in kind of this type of a consistency from the surface, what you would be able to do is kind of drag it, right? Drag it around like this. Again, giving it an opportunity, right, to set, and then you're going to notice, again, I'm always working with my brush like this, so that if I have to come from the inside, you can see the balance that I have so that I'm not shaking. And what I'm actually able to do is force, right, the product to move out in this direction, right? Like, again, putting all my pressure on the outside, forcing that pearl to move out, right? And you're going to notice as I get close, it creates a little bit of texture on that floral type of leaf, right? And you can see that I'm lifting this up and creating a little bit of dimension. Now, once I actually have that set, right? And again, I'm always working from the inside of the petal, right, to push that out as flat as I possibly can. I'm going to work on the inside. So if I take, again, my brush, go out so I can show you guys, and I could literally get it into my liquid, and I can basically remove the excess. I'm going to take something and I'm going to place it on the inside right here. So while that's running, I'm just going to kind of drag it out from the surface, right? I'm going to spin my brush to get it tight. And then what I'm going to do from the inside, I'm going to start working this from the inside out. You can see I'm actually forcing, right, that excess out. I'm using the body of my brush, right, to push that excess beyond, right? You can start to see how everything is starting to spread out. So I'm trying to get this as flat as I can using, again, the very base of the brush, but I don't want to push it where, like, I want that ledge to show up right there, right? Because what we're trying to do is we're trying to open up a floral type of pattern, right? So again, working from the inside, creating a little bit of a ledge right here, creating negative space on the inside. And then, excuse me, what I could do is I could try to build something smaller on the inside. So I would spin my brush and then again spin it to release, and then use again a very, very small amount. And then what we could do is we can set this to the inside, allowing it to kind of self-level, and then spin my brush and then use the bot. So I need to open this right where it's starting to kind of show around, right, around that back end, right? I want to kind of cover up that negative space. And what we're doing is we're just kind of working from the inside out, really just focusing on trying to keep that petal as tight as we possibly can, flattening everything out, right? I don't want to push down too hard. I just want to really use the side of the brush to kind of balance it out so that it opens it up around that negative space, right? So this is a very, very basic kind of just, floral pattern that you can build, right? So again, I have 3 beads. Again, very, very tight, very, very small. You can even see from the side how flat that is. Can you 3D acrylic flowers or finish top coat now? Yes, you can. So what I'm going to end up doing, again, at this point is using a very, very small amount, again, and what we're going to do is we'll set that to the center. and allowing it to kind of self-level. And then I'm going to use, again, the tip of my brush just to kind of open this up, right? So you can see how we're going to use only 4 really, really small kind of petals, right? So that everything looks, you could see the dimension around everything. I'm not going to apply something bigger than the outside petals. I need it to sit inside, but I need a brush that I'll be able to come in and use, right, so that I could actually fold it over the existing petal right here so that it creates some really, really sharp definition, right? So boom, you could see how that is, right? Which again is it's going to add definition to the floral pattern. So on top of anything, like you could, right, once you have the right, I would say, consistency with anything, if I submerge my brush and I come inside and if I was to go directly to the powder, it's going to have way too much liquid. I always need to practice, again, getting the right amount, lightly releasing it, bouncing inside the powder, setting this down to the surface. If it doesn't release, again, take your time. And then you're going to notice, again, that the bead is not going to kind of move. If I had to go back over and just kind of touch the surface, because I put the acetone inside, everything is really starting to kind of maneuver into shape. At this point, I'd be able to use the body of the brush and just kind of stretch. So, again, all of you guys that are practicing doing this, you want to be able to set that down and then try to produce a clamshell. You're going to notice that I could actually kind of push this out and try to create that really, really nice kind of clamshell. You have an open space, a lot of the thickness that's pushed out to the side is going to give you the opportunity. And I could even make this edge really, really flat. I'll use the whole body of the brush to kind of push that out, right? So as I'm stretching this out, then again, I can come in, just these are the basics. This is nothing crazy. I'm going to set it down on the inside of the petal. Now what I can do is I'm coming from the top. Look at this. Look at how I'm actually coming at the top at an angle, kind of spreading everything out. You see that? At that angle. And then what I can do is once I actually have it spread out to that point, then I could start to use, again, the body of the brush, and I can actually start pushing this out to the side. And you can see how it creates dimension right there. And then that point right there, I could really start to kind of flatten out. And these are the first flowers I've done probably in the last 3-4 months. Oops, the finger came off. So I'm just going to kind of just stretch out to the side. Sorry, I'm going to move the finger out of the way. So again, you can see as I'm starting to kind of stretch this out and add some dimension to the outside, just bring that petal back in, that, this part right here, I could care less about. I can make this really as flat as I want. You can see that ledge that I have right here from just pushing it out. And again, the sides of the petal, it doesn't really matter. So the third bead, again, if I spin my brush and I come in and I get myself a nice amount, if I set it to the inside, let me just get a little bit more. If I set it to the inside where all that negative space is, that open space that I have right here, right, as the bead starts to settle, again, I'm going to get my brush, I'm going to spin it. Everything is starting to dry. Then from the center, you're going to notice that I'm really using the very inside of my brush just to kind of open this up. I'm not attacking it right away. I'm giving it a chance to set. Again, notice my finger, right? What I'm doing is right? The angle that I'm at, I'm not super flat. I'm at this angle so that I could use that part of the brush. But you're going to notice, I'm taking my time because I know as it starts to dry and I actually start to be able to work this bead out towards the space, I'm going to get a lot more thickness on the edge so it doesn't look like, right, I could create that dimension right there, right, while I'm spreading the rest of the acrylic out. If I decide that I wanted to kind of lift the edges too to create a bend in the pattern, right? If I lift it from underneath to kind of create a ripple, you could do that as well, right? So once we actually have this out, then I can start working onto the inside. I don't want to pick up something a lot larger than it is. I want to be able to work with something a lot smaller. So I'm going to take my brush, I'm going to spin it, I'm going to touch the surface, I'm going to get something a lot smaller. I'm going to set this to the inside. We're going to allow it to self-level. And then again, like if I need to pick an area on the leaf where I want it to basically, shine the most. So I usually will pick one point with the very, very tip, and I'll start to open this up, and really start to kind of push out onto the petal, really focusing on the edge. This is not the only brush you could use. You could use a gel brush. You could use anything that's very, very, very tight. As you can see with this brush, I chose this brush because it gives me the ability to kind of bend the acrylic and push it out to the point that I want, right? On top of that, now I need to find something again that's going to fit right there on that very, very small point. I'm going to take my brush. I'm going to spin it. Wow, that's crazy. I used to spend so much time doing this, hours and hours of just picking up beads and setting it down. At one point, most of my work, you could say, like if you went to a trade show and you saw me working, I was doing this. Now again, very, very small. I'm going to set that right here into the center, right? Like again, I don't need a lot. And then I need to be able to get a very, very sharp point. And then what we want to be able to do is come in and just kind of poke at that. All right, just to create a little bit of depth. It's still a little bit wet, so I'll just dry my brush out and then come in. There we go. You can see I could just kind of stab at that very, very small amount to add just a very, very minor level of detail, right, to that edge. Cool. All right. Again, picking up the pearls, right, setting it down with the right amount of consistency, allowing it to self-level, having the right brush to kind of work it out to the sides. This is all going to determine whether you're going to be able to get the right size. Don't build donuts. I find that what ends up happening is a lot of you guys that are learning how to do this, you build your outside petals and then you get something that's way bigger. And what ends up happening is it floods out and there's no definition left. Or you'll take acrylic and you'll try to build it again with the same amount that you laid the outside petals, and it floods it and it makes it look basically like a donut, right? Or a cake. You don't want to build a cake on top of the nail. You need space. Create the space you need, gives you room to kind of push it out. It's going to make it a lot easier for you to be able to create these flowers. You can do again, let me show you guys something really fast before anything. But if we were to, let's say you're doing a nail, and a great way to practice is, for those of you that are wondering, right, like if I had this nail, and let's say you have this like crazy glitter mix that you created, what you can do again is, if I take the mix, right, if I take this mix, and then let's say that I'm able to just get this right up to the very, let's say you built a free edge, and then you take your glitter, and then you literally set that across the tip And then I take the tip of my brush, and then what we do is we kind of like pull back to create that light fade, right? So once we've created that light fade, you have a foundation layer. Okay, you have a foundation layer. As you can see, we have a tight fade going all the way to now. Now, when that sets, then what I can come back and do, this white is speed white. You could even use triple X. It doesn't matter. Anything that's bright white is going to help you. And you could do two-tone. You can take two colors. You could double dip, and you can create the inside of the floral pattern as well. Okay, so at this point, if I wanted to maybe set a chain of flowers across that ledge, sorry about my hands, they're super dry. Let me just get a little bit of lotion real fast. All right, way better. Okay, now, so like once you have your foundation set, now it's a matter of like, how do you do your floral patterns, right? So one thing again is getting the right size bead, setting it down and then working it around, right? So like if I wanted to chase something around that edge, I'm going to give this a chance to sit. I'm not going to attack it right away, right? So again, maybe count out a little bit of time, and then I can really tell at this point, once it's going to start sticking to my brush. And if it starts to stick to my brush, then what I'll do is I'll really start to just kind of wipe it. Now you're going to notice, like from that ledge, I can actually start to push out the petal to the outside. All right, boom, right, trying to create as much negative space on the center, right, as I'm pushing the ledge all the way out, right, to the side. I don't want that real big, thick area right there, so I'm just going to kind of lay that down as flat as I possibly can. Boom. And then, like for me, as long as that's flat, it gives me the opportunity to work around. So I'm going to kind of build a flower around that corner. So I'm going to take, again, another bead, and then, again, best is to spin your brush previous to picking it up. Oops. So again, if it falls off, no big deal. Just go back and grab yourself another one. Give yourself a chance. If you choose to kind of dab it, that's fine. You're going to notice from the very, very inside, once I set this down, then what I want to be able to do is I can come in, kind of get my brush clean, and then from the center of this bead, I'm going to really start to force it out to that side, really from the center, right, on top of the glitter, right? So I'm trying to really get that bead out to that edge. And this is, again, I'm showing you guys if you were to build a foundation, right? You don't want the glitter to kind of conceal, right, your design. So what we're doing is we're laying down a floral pattern. If you guys are doing any type of encased design, right? So I'm just going to hide this, boom, right here at the side, try to create as flat of an edge as I can. And again, we're laying it against the side of the nail. You could build a chain of flowers that can run. One of the things also, like if you're creating leaves, you'll notice is if I set a bead really, really wet, and let's say I pull from one point, and then what I'm going to do is from the center, I'm just going to kind of drag this out, right? You're going to notice that what I'll be able to do is really refine that. And then, always in the past, I was going to say to really add some definition to it, you come in and just kind of cut that, right? As you can see, with a pusher. And then if I decided that I want to just kind of open up, right, those sides, I'll be able to kind of create, right, and again, just adding small little details to the edges. So here, right, again, I'm going to take my brush, I'm going to wipe it off, I'm going to come in, I'm going to get a nice bead. And then what we'll do is we'll set this, again, give it a couple seconds. We'll go ahead and set this to the center here. You notice all the space that I have here. So it gives me room, watch this, it gives me room to start working from the center, right, from the center of the bead towards all that thickness. And I'm being very, very slow as I'm pushing it out. Like, take a look at my brush. I just want to show you guys from distance how I'm really like using the side of my brush and just kind of pushing it out very, very tight, very, very slow. I don't want to just drag through it. I'm being very intentional so that when I'm setting this down, you can see now, right, as it starts to get basically sharper, I'm constantly cleaning my brush and then using that to kind of fold that petal out onto the negative space, right? As you can see from the side profile, look how thin that is, right? So now what we're left with is, again, a very, very small area. I would take a very small dot. I would just set that right here, give it an opportunity to kind of level. I don't need to force it. I'm going to get a really tight point, and then you're going to notice I'm going vertical. I need to balance my finger, make sure that it's sharp. I need to go vertical, and then I'm gonna poke it, right, just to kind of. You're going to notice. Sorry, you're going to look at that, right? You're going to notice that I'm able to get that level of detail right there. Boom. Okay. So this is a great way for you to show you, again, very basic flowers. I'm not showing you guys how to do anything super crazy. But again, if you're laying glitter around the edges, and then if you choose to put different colors inside or paint or accentuate, right, you can do that with your gel paints as well. I hope that helps. Always appreciate you guys. If you guys have any questions, hit me up. Always here to help. Appreciate you guys. Love you much. See you soon. Peace.
Subscribe channel now. Subscribe channel now. Sub and subscribe to the channel now. Subscribe to the channel